Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TechTrends podcast. As I always say, this podcast is a platform where we explore the latest trends shaping tech, business, and of course, a lot of things that happens in society. I'm your host, Nixon Canali, and today we are talking about one of the most important issues in ride-hailing, that's safety. There has always been a lot of debate around pricing, safety, and driver earnings in this space. And, sometimes the public conversation doesn't really capture the full picture. And today we are joined by Hazel. Thank you for joining us, Hazel, on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're telling me this is your first podcast ever.
Yes.
We should appear on more. Maybe we should plan and have him as our frequent guest.
First of many.
First of many. Good. So Hazel, maybe just start by introducing yourself and your roles at Bolt.
Okay. So my name is Hazel. I work at Bolt and I'm part of the team that ensures that when you get into a Bolt ride, you get home safe, you get to work safe, you get to where you're going safe.
All right, thank you, Hazel. And of course, as I said, in this podcast, we're going to be unpacking and basically just reframing this issue that I spoke about. So especially safety being the most important bit of this conversation. So how is Bolt investing in safety? And of course, how does Bolt ensure both passengers and drivers are protected? So thank you for joining us, Hazel, on the podcast. Let's start with the big picture. So ride-hailing often sparks heated conversations about safety. So as I said, driver earnings and pricing. And from just your perspective at Bolt, what do you think the public misunderstands most about these issues?
Well, Nixon, safety and pricing and generally just how we operate as a platform is a very complex topic. A lot of different things would influence the stuff that can happen to you on a trip. Mm-hmm. And everyone who lives in Nairobi knows that one of the biggest driving, the biggest issue that we face with our safety incidents is pricing.
Yeah.
So one small inconvenience about my fare was 300, but I want to pay you 250. Already something happens, an assault, insulting someone, dragging someone out of the vehicle. What we observe is that to the public, a lot of these things are simplified as the driver's behaving badly because the platform does not help them or does not give them the guidelines on how to conduct themselves. But for us, we see that these issues are very oversimplified. But when you look at it from what we see, our data and our reports, both of our users follow or both of our users experience the same risk.
Yeah.
So the same way the rider is concerned about this driver is slapping me because of the 20 bob, the driver is concerned about my livelihood is at stake because I'm getting less the 20 bob that I had planned for, right? So for us, it's a balance of the two. And as we go on further with this podcast, you'll get to see that both of those users have a role to play in different points when it comes to their safety and generally just their conduct on the platform.
Yeah, and I actually love that you say that because one of the things we see a lot of, especially we're very active in the social media space, and you will see, for example, someone will post a tweet or a social media post with a screenshot of how much they are paying for a service. Then, napo, nataka nipigane na driver. You've seen those tweets,
yes.
I'm so sure.
Yes.
And I'm sure, Bolt operates in, of course, diverse markets. You're talking about Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. Are the challenges really the same in these markets?
Yes, for the most part. It depends on the context of what challenge exactly, because the challenges are a lot. That's a fact.
Around safety, yeah.
So around safety, our challenges are the same. We see across all of our African markets, the number one reason for a safety incident to happen on a trip is always the pricing. Mm-hmm. And what affects the pricing is different things. There could have been traffic. Maybe there was an issue with the app. Maybe the route was different. So all of those things affect the final price. So, of course, when a passenger is requesting a trip, we show the price up front, that's a dynamic price. So it's just an idea, but it doesn't mean that that will be the final price if the trip takes 3 hours. Now, the other thing is that a lot of times it's things that are outside the control of the driver.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some cases where the driver can just follow a longer route because they know this route is longer and it's going to charge more.
Yeah.
We don't dispute that. But most of the time, it's not because the driver is trying to be malicious. It's stuff that is outside of their control. Traffic, maybe an accident has happened. Yeah. So, it started raining. In Nairobi, the minute it starts drizzling,
like how it's doing right
everything
now.
Is ridiculous. So a lot of times it's not because the driver is being malicious, it's just things that are outside of their control. But we see that pricing drives a lot of our safety incidents because our drivers and our passengers don't talk to each other in a way that can resolve the issue at that time, right? So at that time, the first defense is, I need to jump out of the vehicle, I need to hold this passenger's handbag, I need to go into their house and take something as collateral. So it's very unconventional ways to solve the issue. But what we try to tell our users is if there's a disagreement during your trip, we have features that are available to help you at that time. And then later on, you can also report those issues to us and we'll be able to offer the correct support.
All right, interesting. And, of course, I like that you mentioned it's, of course, we're going to talk about the safety features later on in the podcast. But, one of the things we've seen happen, and I think we've been discussing it offline before we just came to this podcast, is, you'll enter a Bolt ride, and, the driver will be like, Bolt, just cares about the passenger. And, of course, from where you're sitting, you've seen those complaints, all over, and even some come through your platforms. And one of the less discussed issues, of course, is the rise of false claims made by passengers against drivers. We've seen that happen, not even in Kenya, actually, even in other markets, actually.
Yeah.
We've seen, I think I saw it in Ghana, I saw it in South Africa, and I think some people just do it for clout on social media. I mean, not even Kenya alone, in Africa in general. How serious is this problem?
It's a very serious issue, Nixon. And even when we zoom out of Africa, generally, across the globe, false claims is an issue that we have to battle with every day. And sometimes it is very well packaged that even during our investigations, we're not able to tell that this was a false claim. We get to know it was a false claim because the driver decided to take the person to court. And then they went to court and they said, I just did it because. So false claims is a big issue that we have to deal with. But we also want to remind our passengers that if you're sitting in your house and you're just tweeting about this driver raped me or this driver assaulted me, the driver is actually empowered to take you to court. And when they do, you better make sure you have the evidence to back it up. Because when you look at the damage that this presents to the driver, obviously rape is not a light offense. So you can imagine a passenger put the screenshot of your trip. Remember when we show the rider or the passenger the trip details, it has some stuff that you can even consider personally identifiable information. The driver's phone number, their vehicle registration is there. So someone who knows them can be able to point them out and say, oh, this is the guy who was reported, who was exposed. Let me use the social media terms. This is the guy who was exposed yesterday because he slapped a passenger. If it's false, then the reputational risk that driver is suffering is almost they cannot recover from it. Because how are you going to start convincing the public that you're not a rapist, you're not an abuser, and those kind of things, right? So the damage is very significant for the driver because it quite literally threatens their livelihood. The reason I say that is also for us, how we investigate this kind of reports. The first action is always obviously enforcement. So we will limit the driver's access to the platform until we investigate that issue. So if someone reports to us that, hey, your driver raped me, the first thing we're doing is we're restricting their access at that time while we investigate. If the investigation takes 1 month or 3 weeks, that is 1 month or 3 weeks that this driver is not earning, right? And so we normally ask our passengers, let's be careful what we're posting. And to other people who are normally very interested in this kind of cases, it's very important to fact check. Because sometimes you could be retweeting and you're backing up stories online, but you don't know what happened, right? So we always ask, if you have the opportunity, come and fact check. We're more than happy to collaborate, but
because I can imagine how it must be really tough getting into such a situation as a driver if that happens to you. As you said, things like rape, even just slapping a passenger is not an easy thing. And some of these drivers are actually just humans like us, like the passengers.
Absolutely.
So how you treat them actually really, really matters. But what do you think? Why do you think these stories about driver vulnerability actually underreported compared to passenger safety stories? Because we've seen more passenger stories than driver stories
Yeah.
being reported.
Yeah.
Why is that the case?
I mean, it's easy to sell a passenger story.
Yeah.
A lot of us, and I think this is just how we are generally as a society, in the context of a passenger and a driver, it's easier to believe the passenger because you're like, there's absolutely no way this passenger could have done X, Y, Z. So passenger stories are more sensationalized. They have the platforms. They are sometimes even more tech savvy than the drivers. So they know if I post it on Instagram, if I post it on TikTok, I have the views, I have the whatevers. So a lot of times we see that the passengers have more incentive to overly sensationalize their stories. They are more dramatic in how they are being explained.
Yeah.
And so the driver is always at a disadvantage because at the end of the day, this is just someone who's trying to do his job the same way someone can be sitting in an office doing their regular job. So the driver doesn't get that chance to, after the trip or during the trip to start recording and to, start having all these things that happen between the trip. So it happens like that. And then also how the public interprets it, we're very quick to judge the driver.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know where that comes from, but it's a very interesting dynamic. When a driver says this person did X, Y, Z, it's very hard for us to believe them. But if it's the flip side, the passenger says this guy did whatever, it's easier. So
Okay. And is this a concern that drivers actually raised with you?
Yes, severally. And even before they started raising it, we also had to have a come to Jesus moment to say that, look, our riders are unfairly reporting our drivers. So part of our investigations, we do have processes in place that help our support agents to be able to distinguish, does this story make sense? Because you see, for us, we have a lot of information that, again, the rider does not have. So if they're saying the driver dropped me off and then we started to fight, you did not fight for 1 minute and then the driver left. And we can collaborate that by checking what was the driver doing after that trip. Yeah. So we are able to also help fact check some of these things. And just because something is trending on TikTok, on Instagram, on whatever, it doesn't always mean that the driver is wrong. And it doesn't always mean that we have to penalize the driver. We stand by what is true and what we have evidence for. If there's a police case, that's different. But if our information on our system cannot collaborate the story, then we do not penalize the driver. So our investigations are normally independent. We don't take sides. We look at the facts of the case and we decide accordingly.
Right. And are there actually incidences where now you found the passenger was actually on the wrong?
Yes, I'm sure you saw it in Ghana because you referenced it.
Yes.
A passenger spoke a lot online about things that did not happen, and they had to come and offer a public apology. And we know that that driver was actually pursuing legal action. And if you see on other driver groups, the South Africa one, I think the Kenya one as well, the discussion that was ongoing there between the drivers was we need to unionize and start taking legal action against these passengers because the platforms are not doing it. Which is a whole different ballgame because, like I said earlier, imagine you having to go to court to start justifying how someone raped you. You don't have a report. You don't have hospital records. Nothing happened. Sometimes you are not even on the trip. You had requested for a younger sister. So it gets very complicated, but we are seeing more and more drivers are starting to be aware of the fact that this is defamation and there are laws within my country that can protect me, and they are taking that up.
That's interesting. And now let's talk about now the safety tools and investment you're making now in this space. Of course, we've seen, some of which we've covered so much here on TechTrends, a number of safety features. We're talking about the SOS, trip sharing, radar verification, audio trip recording. Not sure if is it local here, audio trip recording, dash cams, which were just announced today. The day we are shooting this podcast, and I saw it's already available in markets like South Africa already. Actually, just walk us through how this protects both the driver and the passengers.
So we have features that are available to you during the ride and also after, because sometimes maybe during the trip you're not able to report, which is something that we've been able to investigate and see. We find that a lot of cases are reported after the trip happened, because people are scared of retaliation from the drivers. Sometimes just based on what is happening on the trip, they're not able to report.
Yeah.
So mainly during the ride days, a host of different things that you can apply. As you mentioned, we have an emergency button that you can use with our partners rescue. They can be able to help you if it's the case of an accident, for example, or security assistance is also available through rescue. We have the audio recording in other markets where you can just record the conversation, because sometimes it's not an actual physical risk, but the conversation is very strange. I like your hips, are you married, etc. So you can discreetly record those conversations and share it with us, and we will use it to arrive at a decision on whether or not we want to keep the driver. So sometimes we listen to the conversations just to assess to what extent was this going and what do we need to do. The reason why I emphasize reporting is also because we use those reports to build a profile. For example, if a driver last week, we received an audio and he was talking about weird things with the rider. This week, we receive another audio of another weird conversation. Then 2 weeks later, they've been accused of slapping someone. What we are tracking there is the behavior. So we are seeing that this is someone who's used to, doing weird stuff. Another feature that's available is an anomaly feature, which a lot of people don't know about. So when you're on a trip, we check that trip to make sure that everything goes as planned. If your ETA said you should have arrived at your destination in 10 minutes, then if you are not there in 10 minutes, we send you a prompt to ask you, are you okay? Yeah. A lot of people ignore it because it's easy to ignore, and people are just like, what is this? Whatever. But for us, it tells us a lot. So if one person, for example, the driver says, I am fine, and the passenger says, I'm not fine, then that for us is a signal, because that is weird. If everything else went okay, then both of you should have either not interacted with the pop-up, or both of you should have said the same thing, we're all fine. So we have trip anomaly. There's stuff that's available on the app, but also on the background, there's a lot of models that we run during the trip to just make sure that everyone is safe.
Right. On the driver verification, is it the one where they have to take a selfie every time they start a trip?
Yes. Not every time they start a trip. So we have a schedule on which we verify drivers. For Kenya, it's at least twice a week. But there's also other factors that would influence at what time you receive the verification.
Okay. So now, are there any situations where one of these features will actually help resolve, a safety concern, let me say fairly on both sides?
Yes. So, fairly on both sides is debatable. Again, it depends on what was the incident. But some time ago, I think it was a year ago, there was a passenger who died on a trip, and a certain local blog picked up the story very quickly. The same time the incident was happening, they already had
that was in Kenya, in Nairobi.
Yes, they already had a post up. It was only 3 lines, but it just said, Bolt driver passenger has died on the trip, right? So what happened on that trip was the passenger was unfortunately a drug mule, and one of the drugs that they had taken ruptured in the stomach. And so the driver was watching through the rear view mirror as this passenger was dying, foam coming out of the mouth, eyes rolling back, all of that. And the driver was very quick and swift in his action. He pressed the SOS button, and he said to them, I'm on my way to the airport. I don't know what's happening to this passenger. I think she's dying. I don't know. So the nurse from rescue was on the phone and asking the driver, what are you seeing? How is their behavior? The driver was parked on the side of the road. So that passenger was pronounced dead when the nurses arrived. But we use that to just demonstrate, if you know what is available for you, you can get a lot of help. If you don't, it's a different situation, right? So that case, the driver pressed the emergency button. The ambulance was there in 5 minutes. The body was taken. The police also came very quickly because the driver knew that I can use the emergency button and those people are able to help him. The rescue guys actually called the police. So they arrived, took the body. What happened after that is also quite ridiculous because the driver was receiving some phone calls from some people who are telling him some very crazy things. Please help us obtain the body. I mean, of course, it's drugs.
Yeah.
I don't need to go into the details of how drug operations work. But you can imagine if this driver didn't know what can be available for him, the first thing that would have happened was he would have been detained, which a lot of our drivers face, right? So it's helpful for people to know the features that are there because it also absorbs them of accountabilities and responsibilities even when it comes to law enforcement.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you look at it, even as much as you are the driver, to some extent you are accountable to that passenger. You are responsible for that passenger. So, and I like that you said using tools that you actually have available for you. So there are some drivers, even passengers, that they know there are these safety features, but maybe don't have to use them. How do you make sure that people like passengers like me as a boat user are actually aware of these features and actually use them when it matters?
Yeah. So we normally house all of our safety features in the app under the safety toolkit. If you open your app, you're able to see these are the features that I have in this country, and it's customized per country. So if you go to South Africa, you may see more. If you go to a different place, you may see less. But we house all of our information there. We also have a dedicated safety blog on our website that talks about all the features available in Kenya and how they can help you during a trip. And then to supplement that, we also have safety campaigns that are run by our marketing team. A lot of work from our PR team to just sensitize the public when it comes to this is what is available, this is how to use it, and this is the help that you will get when you use XYZ.
All right.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears a bit to the passenger safety. We've spoken so much about the driver safety, which I think is one area that people really used to ignore. We felt the passenger, wamjali zaidi.
Customized rights.
Exactly, yeah. But now let's talk about the passengers. For example, late night trips, right?
Yeah.
Rides that book a ride to a very unfamiliar area. It's always a very big concern for a lot of passengers like me. For example, I come from a very remote area, the other side of the suburbs. Yeah. But do you have any features that you offer to make passengers feel safe in these areas?
Yes. So for starters, we have a pickup code that a passenger can use with the driver just to make sure that they're getting into the correct vehicle and that the driver who's ferrying them is the correct driver. We have that. Obviously, we have driver verification. We normally show on the app that this is a verified driver. So all of our drivers are verified, and we do it constantly every week, at least twice. So you can always guarantee that the driver who's picking you up is the correct driver. And just a quick note on that. If you remember, maybe 4 years ago, in Kenya, we had a big issue with impersonations. You could almost get, every time you take a Bolt, it's almost guaranteed that it's not going to be the same driver, right? And a lot of work has gone into making sure that that doesn't happen again. And we are very, very, very proud to say that these days when you take a Bolt, we don't see those impersonation issues as we used to see them. And I think if you're a frequent Bolt user, you can confirm, right?
So how do I tell actually a driver is actually verified? Is it like how we have, for example, on social media, there's a blue tick?
Yes, there's a verified badge on the app.
Yeah.
And on top of that, for our best performing drivers, the most preferred drivers, they're how they would appear on your screen is the driver picture has a yellow ring and the badge is yellow. So that shows, and we even say this is a top driver. And top driver means they are verified, they don't have safety issues, they always behave well and those kind of things. So you're able to see the badge that confirms that they're verified. Other features that are available for passengers beyond that is trip sharing. You can be able to share your trip with your loved ones. They can track it in real time as you're moving. We also have trusted contacts. You're able to add your spouse, your sister, whatever, as a trusted contact, just in case something happens, and we'll be able to contact you. So those are just...
Okay. And do I have a limit on how many trusted contacts I can add? Or just one?
At the moment, you can add up to 3 trusted contacts,
Oh, interesting. Now, in things like, of course, emergency, like the example you gave about the passenger who passed on, unfortunately, of course, speed is always a very important factor here. How do you connect with the local authorities, the police, or even emergency services when such incidents happen?
Yeah. So for emergencies, because we are not able to do everything on our own as a platform, and at the time of the emergency, we also understand the urgency that is required. We have to work with a provider. So when you press the emergency button on the app, it takes 0 to 20 seconds for your ping to arrive at rescue. Once it's there, their response time is always less than 5 minutes. The first thing they do is to contact you and ask what is the nature of your emergency. So if it's an accident, for example, you'll be able to stay on the phone with someone giving you some guidance, but at the same time, they've already dispatched an ambulance or a security team to arrive at your location. And what we also share with them is your live location. So if it's the case of an attempted kidnapping, which is worst case scenario, they're able to see the live location so they can track you as you're moving with, the driver, or they can just track the location on the vehicle and they're able to arrive to you. Normally, we see really good response times from our emergency. And then obviously, aside from that, you can also report it on the app. So that comes directly to our in-house team.
I've actually been to rescue offices, and I think those guys do quite a very good job. When it comes to response in emergencies. They have a big fleet of ambulances and all these people they work with, so they do quite a very good job. And just, I'm not sure if I should ask this, but do you see different safety perceptions among men and women riders? And basically, just how are you addressing these concerns?
Yes. So
I know that might sound a bit sensitive, but
that's why I'm laughing, because it's a very touchy.
It's a very touchy conversation.
It's a touchy conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. So what we normally see is that it's very interesting when the trip is paired to, let's say, a younger woman, and even destination. Where are they going? So, for example, just to paint a picture, it's a young lady. They're requesting a trip on Friday at 9 p.m. They're coming from their house in Kiambu Road, Kiambu Road, and they're going to Habanos next door. So obviously, you have an idea what this person is going to do, right? So when we pair that person with a younger driver who has maybe less ratings, then the likelihood of a safety incident occurring is very high. And we normally say that if the driver has less ratings or they have some behavior issues that have been reported for in the past, the likelihood of those issues recurring is very, very high, especially with female passengers. So we have done some tests to just investigate, would the behavior be different if we pair you with an older driver? We also looked at what is the behavior when we pair women passengers with women drivers. That is also very interesting. And surprisingly, some safety issues not safety issues, but some reports get to us when it's two women on the trip. Because apparently women don't get along, which is a very interesting thing. And it would be really cool for us, and this is something that we're just planning to do later on, to just do a survey and see how many people actually take women-only trips. How many women? It's a very interesting space.
But you also have a female-only category as well.
Yes, we do. We do. It's designed for women alone, obviously. So if you're going to Habanos at 11 p.m., you don't have to get into the boat with that guy who wants to tell you how cute you look in your Habanos dress. So the women category is only for women. We actually ask the passengers to verify. And if it's a guy who's trying to verify themselves, they won't be able to take that trip on that category, and we'll tell them. We'll say, it's good you verified, thank you very much, but this category is women, please take another category.
Okay, interesting. That's quite informative, actually, because there's some things, actually, some of us think, okay, I'll just order the cab and that's it. But there's still a lot of things that happen in the background that we actually, as readers, don't really know. But, enough of maybe, let's say, safety. And of course, beyond income, let me just take us through how else do you just support your driver's well-being? Looking at things like financial literacy, all these other benefits, how else do you support the drivers?
So one of the most important ones that you've mentioned is financial literacy. And that is a big one because it's tied to this conversation around pricing. Drivers are not making enough. the apps are nyanyasing us.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that conversation that goes on. We do have sessions with the drivers where we are just telling them, if you structure your working day or your working month in this and this way, you're able to attain this. We also have a lot of campaigns that we offer our drivers, just incentives basically for them to work a little bit harder and get good benefits. Obviously, we don't want drivers to work 24/7, but we do have a lot of incentives, a lot of community stuff that we do with our marketing team to just help drivers maximize their earnings responsibly.
Yes.
May I add?
Key point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just take you back a little bit. So today, as I said, we are shooting this podcast on the day we just announced the dashcam.
Yes.
How does this work?
So the driver will be able to use their phone as a dashcam to record.
So it's not like a physical dashcam.
No, not yet.
Okay. So
Not yet.
Okay.
So the driver is able to use their phone. It's an app they download and they can decide if they want to do it. The big question here that I've received is, so what if I don't want to be recorded?
Yeah.
It's fine. We normally, if the driver has opted in for the dashcam, because it's also opt-in, we're not mandating it for drivers.
And there's a fee actually attached to it as well.
Yes, it's around 500, I believe. And for now, we're just testing with a small group of drivers. It's not something that we're rolling out entirely. So for the drivers that opt in, we actually display it when the rider is paired with that driver. We display that this trip may be recorded.
Yeah.
So they have the option to cancel it if they don't want to, right? So we're just testing it out in Kenya to see how it goes. But when it comes to something that we discussed earlier, evidence and how do we arrive at concluding that this was a false claim versus a true claim, this will be one of the things that will change the game completely, because the plan is for it to act as a deterrent. So if someone had the intention to rob the driver or to solicit the driver because they don't have money to pay for the trip, if they know that there's a recording, then it may act as a deterrent. But let's see how the test goes.
All right.
Yeah.
And just, I'm curious, what's Bolt's long-term vision for safety? I mean, how does it look like?
Well, in very few words, what we want to guarantee our users, both our drivers and both our passengers, is when you get paired with that driver or that passenger, you will get to your destination safe. So what we are doing is we are combining innovation, technology, we are doing a lot of stuff actually around AI to just help us with detection, mitigation, prevention kind of strategies. And basically what we want to do is to just guarantee you that safety. How we do that is everything that happens in the background.
Okay.
But that is where we want to get.
Yeah. And you're just, looking ahead, let's say 5 years, from where we are sitting, as one of the people leading this, what does a safe and trusted ride-hailing ecosystem look like, for this market?
What does a safe and
trusted
yes,
ride-hailing ecosystem look like?
Well, the first thing is if I request a trip from my house to work, I will get there safe. I don't have to deal with the driver asking me, imeonyesha ngapi?
Yeah.
I don't
Those
have
questions
to,
come,
I don't have to deal with offlines. Yeah. So what we want to do is eliminate all those things. All you have to do as a passenger is confirm the ride, get into the ride, have conversation about maandamano, and go home. If you don't want to have the conversation about the maandamano, it's fine. You don't have to talk. Just go home. Yeah. So for us, it's really just about the trust and obviously the convenience of taking a Bolt. In short,
okay. Hapo pa imeonyesha ngapi? Is it true? Ikilepea discount hii pesa driver anasema sitapata hii pesa. Is it really ama huwa tunadanganya?
I don't know where that conversation came from, but actually we deposit that money into the driver's account immediately they end that ride. So ata mukiwa hapo, the driver can open their app and you will see that discount amount has been sent to them. Not on M-Pesa, they can withdraw it from Bolt. Yeah. So the money is always sent. Please usidanganywe. Usilokiwe ndani ya gari. Discount. But then again, worst case scenario, I always say, if you have to, because I understand there are some situations where maybe the driver is just very aggressive,
Yeah.
and you don't have the option of not paying them the full amount, you can pay the full amount and send us the screenshot of the M-Pesa, or just send a report. And once we confirm that you did, we can be able to refund you.
Yeah.
So that is worst case scenario. But what we try to emphasize is that that money is sent to the drivers. Yeah.
So maybe, Hazel, as we almost come to an end, for this podcast, for drivers listening, to this podcast right now, what would you like to know? What would you like them to actually know about Bolt's commitment to their safety and livelihoods? Because they're always asking, as you said, as I asked earlier, actually, are these concerns they actually bring about when it comes to concerns? So what message, would you like them to know?
First of all, we hear you, and we are here to listen. Always report if you have something to report to us, and please utilize the tools that are available to you in the app. Our safety toolkit for the drivers is actually very sophisticated. They can get a lot of information there, and basically just talk to us. Don't be there talking on the Uber Kenya Facebook group. Come to us. We can talk there, but come to us first.
All right. And for passengers, actually, it's important immediacy. So if there's an incident, they should report immediately.
Yes.
Waiting for 4 or 5 days.
Yes, please. We have 24/7 support that's available for both our drivers and our passengers. So if anything happens, please report it fast, because reporting helps us prepare the correct support for you, for starters, and then we're also able to help you in that moment. Don't sit on something for 1 week, then report it. In that moment, we can still be able to help. So please utilize our reporting tools in app.
All right. Thank you so much, Hazel, for joining us on this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Any closing remarks before we end up?
When is the next one?
The next one, we should bring a driver on set. We should be having we'll plan for that, but we should be inviting a driver on set as well.
Interesting.
To really now share from their side.
Yeah,
it's important to listen to, how these safety features and tools have actually been of help to them.
Yeah.
So, of course, we look forward to that. But thank you so much for just finding time and joining us on this podcast, just sharing these insights on how you as Bolt, you're investing in safety and, of course, both for riders and drivers. To our listeners, remember, safety, of course, is a shared responsibility, as we always say. So whether you're behind the wheel or in the backseat as a passenger, the tools available for you that Bolt is offering, it's up to you to actually make use of them. So this has been the TechTrends podcast. I'm Nick Canali, and thanks so much for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.